Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Storms are brewing. All I see is gray clouds outside. Not as high. Not as high as I think I am. Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. What's poppin', Rick?
What's up?
Today, nothing interesting happening. You know what I like not doing? The news. That's refreshing. I look at the news every day and think, I don't have to do the news on the podcast. Because you guys, if you're listening to our podcast, you're following the news. So why fill a whole spot of your time and
That's
your
a great question.
Telling you about your news?
That's a great question.
I mean, we'll give you information if something happens and try to advise you.
Maybe
what
next
that
year we should
situation
just
is going to be. But
talk about specific news.
the Friday news show was just insufferable, and everyone loved it. I think.
I don't know.
But anyway, it's nice not having news. It is Thursday, and we are going to do a mock draft.
Yes.
So we have an early look this week on Tuesday into our hot takes for the 2021 fantasy football season. And now we have a early look into the 2021 draft season information, mocking, all that stuff. So we're going to do an early mock draft. 2 to 3 rounds, 12 team, half PPR. No super flex. This is just a generic league to start off with. We are going to try to do the first 2 to 3 rounds, and me and Rick, because you know what, you can't find literally anywhere updated ADP. I've been trying,
right,
but haven't been able to find anyone. So we are going to try our best to draft. I'm going to do the even picks, and Rick's going to do the odd picks, and we're going to go through the first couple rounds and see where we end up with, I guess, our first little intro into what the first couple rounds might look like going into the 2021 fantasy football draft season. So let's jump in. Right before we do that, be sure to check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at theFFChamps, on Instagram at thefantasychampions. Like us facebook.com/thefantasychampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below anything you would like to know from us.
Yes, do that.
We'll answer all your questions. So, you ready to do this mock draft, Rick?
I'm excited.
No time limit.
Okay.
I'm scared because, I feel like if you screw something,
Make sure you have.
This is all players.
You might want to have last year's stats up so that you know. And by last year, I mean 2020, just to give you a basic idea, because you're not going to want to probably go by what Sleeper has.
What, Christian McCaffrey has 0 points?
Yeah,
I was going to go by that.
So do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, but...
Okay, well, at the 1-1...
Hold on a second. There was hesitation there.
At the 1-1,
Why is there hesitation?
I know who I'm taking, but I don't know if that's the same. I don't know if it's easy because I've seen people do different ones, and I don't know what's going on in your head because sometimes we differ. But for me, the 1-1, as of right now, it's still Christian McCaffrey. It is. He was the top running back last year, I believe, in points per game. He played in 3 games all season. He averaged 27 points per game in the 3 games. Ridiculous. And then the year before that, top running back. They might add a new quarterback that hopefully is better than Teddy Bridgewater. And even if they don't, and Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback next year, McCaffrey was still fantastic, and Bridgewater likes to throw to running back. So it's even better. That offense is actually getting better each year. If they add maybe an offensive lineman, they'll probably go defense too in the draft. But they're only a few pieces away from being a really, really good football team and a really good offense.
Yeah.
For me, it's pretty easy with the top player. It's still Christian McCaffrey.
Well, and
I don't think he's gonna get hurt again either. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I would totally agree with Rick's first pick. We're rolling, and we provided you with the draft board on the screen, so I can't look at stats, Rick. If I do that, I'm screwing everything up. So
you want to?
It is what it is.
Share mine.
Yeah, well, it won't be that easy to navigate. But anyway, I feel like this one's tough because the second pick is tough because it has to be somebody like obviously for us. Me and Rick were talking about on one of last week's show recapping the season where it's going to be it's going to be a lot of running backs.
Yep.
Which is we're going to try our best to take the wide receivers too and be realistic.
Yes.
But
as
we're running, what are we running? 12 teams here.
Yeah. As of right now, it's still really early, but where I want to pick is not, unless it's one because I love McCaffrey.
You say this now, but I drafted 10 and I don't want to do it again. So.
Well, I would maybe not 10, but like anywhere between 5 and 9.
Yeah,
like I think you're going to get
Kamara, Dalvin Cook, some of the best were between 5 and 7.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's where you want to draft again this year. But early on. But
anyway, I think it's a tough one because
it is a tough one.
Where are people's heads at with Barkley at this point?
Yep.
And do people believe that Saquon Barkley can be a top 10, or not even just a top 10, top 5 running back?
Coming off the torn
ACL, but not even just the torn ACL. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the last 10 games I've watched him, he's not looked good. And to be honest with you, it's not even Barkley. It's the fact that the Giants are just garbage.
Their first game this year, the offensive line, I forget who they're playing, but it was horrendous.
It's horrendous.
But if that offensive line improves, and they drafted Andrew Thomas this year, who I don't know if he got hurt, but he wasn't insane, but he was a rookie left tackle. If he gets better, and then they add another piece to the offensive line, maybe even a receiver, like the Giants could, in theory, be a better offense than they have been the last 2 years in 2021. So, but coming off that injury, man, it's tough. I was thinking about taking him at 3, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's hard because he had been that transitional talent guy, and now you're sitting here looking at him and going, what's he going to look like off the injury? Is he actually that top 5 running back that you expect to get? And for me, if I'm drafting in the top 5, I don't want to take risks. The opportunity is there for him, but there's so much going on surrounding Barkley that I have to take. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Dalvin Cook.
I don't blame you. I think that's.
I feel like it's a safe pick.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways,
he was fantastic this year.
But he's obviously
22
fantastic.
points a game.
Yeah. But I think for me, the opportunity with Dalvin Cook is going to be there, and he's going to get the red zone touch. The red zone touches. He's going to get a majority of the opportunity in the offense, and their offense is kind of even though what is it, Thielen and Jefferson both were wide receiver ones, they still only throw 25 times a game.
Yeah,
right. Like Dalvin Cook rushes it a lot, so. Knowing that and putting that in my back pocket, I think it's clear that he should be the number 2 running back off the board, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. This one is really tough for me because, again, I figured you would take Dalvin Cook here, and I was like, do I want to go Barkley at 3? I don't know. I really don't know. That injury is super concerning. And not just the injury, but as you said, he hasn't looked great. He did in the game that he got, unfortunately tore his ACL. He was actually looking really. He had 50 yards on 6 carries.
Yeah.
He was looking really good. I think it hurts, but especially because I took Barkley 2nd overall in our listener league and our home league, and he got injured in both. Gosh, I'm gonna do it.
You have some resentment in your soul.
I'll still take Barkley though at number 3. I think it's just the best choice. Last time we've seen him fully healthy, he's still young. He's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
And last time we saw him fully healthy for a full season, he averaged 22 points a game or 23 points a game, which is ridiculous. So I think Barkley is probably the best choice here, but I could see you going in multiple different directions after number 1.
It's going to be tough. I want to see. I'm curious to see what his. Why don't you go on Fantasy Football Calculator, see what we got for information here. I don't know if we have any draft information yet. I don't believe so, but we'll see what happens.
It has to re-download. I haven't been on it in a while.
It's like it's an August thing, and then it vanishes from your mind and life. As soon as the season starts. But anyway, for me, I think I might go Barkley and hope that he falls to 5 or 6, but then you start thinking about other guys. I think the other person that I would think at 3 is probably Henry.
So this, I don't know if
that's updated yet.
I don't know. Yeah.
McCaffrey's 102. Who's 101? Oh no, it's McCaffrey.
Yeah.
102.
Derrick Henry.
Are you in super flex here?
I don't know. It's not.
Yeah, never mind. Don't even look at that.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes was the 102.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Anyway, so yeah, I think it's kind of a split between them, but for me at 4, I'm gonna have to take Derrick Henry, and I think at this point for Derrick Henry, it's disappointing because I had a lot of like bad takes on him, and it's just like at this point I'm just
you were right for the first like
I didn't even want to draft him this year though.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he doesn't pass catch, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
No.
And I keep getting like, it's driving me nuts because they keep promising me that they're gonna pass it to Derrick Henry, and the second he does that, like he is in conversation with Derrick Henry for RB1. But
McCaffrey. When they start passing Derrick Henry. Yeah.
When they pass it to Derrick, yes, he's in the conversation for 101 with McCaffrey. Yeah. Is that not what I said?
No.
Okay. What did I say?
You just said he's in the conversation with Derrick Henry to be the 101.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Reverse that. But anyway, yeah, for Henry, I think either way, he's still a top 5 running back.
Yep.
As long as he's healthy. They give the ball to him like 30 times a game on the ground. So it's another situation where I like having that opportunity through the air, the 4 catches a game that you get from a guy like, Dalvin Cook or somebody who gets 40 to 50 catches a game. Obviously, McCaffrey gets like 7 or 8 catches a game. But anyway, I look at Derrick Henry, and he may not give that, but he still gives the same amount of opportunity. And so, like, if we're running, like, say Barkley gets 30 touches a game and Derrick Henry gets 30 touches a game, but Barkley gets, 7 catches and Henry gets no catches, then Barkley's going to score more fantasy points because you're in a half PPR or PPR setting. But for Derrick Henry, he is still getting kind of that same amount of opportunity that other guys are getting. He's just not getting those half points or that full points that you'll see in a PPR league. So that's why I don't think Henry can jump into that top 3 draft situation because he's not going to get the passing work.
He might go 2 though in a lot of drafts.
He might go 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he might even go 1. I mean,
I'm off. I'm done judging Derrick Henry. I will.
Good growth. Yeah, I think these are the top 4 running backs. And I think I think McCaffrey's still the clear one, but I think from 2 to 4, I think you can really go in any order. I was really debating hard about Derrick Henry or Barkley at number 3. I think those are the top 4 guys. I think this is kind of a teardrop after these 4 guys. Yeah. And now there's a lot of directions I could go in here at 5. Are we basing this off what we would do?
If we were basing it off what we would do, this would be all running backs for the next 2 rounds.
Yeah.
But, throw some wide receivers in there, throw some different approaches.
Because
you're going to have different people. And pretend you're multiple people drafted.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna do this one, but there's a lot of people who are on the Travis Kelce hype train who are gonna take him in the top 5 and very early. I'm not gonna take Travis Kelce here.
We won't even do that here.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. But I'm just saying, like, that's something that I think you'll see. Because people are very high on Travis Kelce. The guy I am going to go with here, because I do think the tier ends at running back, I'm going to take Devontae Adams.
Okay. Oh, wow. I thought I was actually going to take him 6. Oh, so okay. You sniped me.
I did. I sniped you. I think the year that he had is so ridiculous that it's hard. It's what Michael Thomas did last year, and Michael Thomas was like the 5th or 6th overall pick in a lot of drafts, and he was even better. Devontae Adams this year was better than Michael Thomas last year. I mean, Devontae Adams was absolutely ridiculous. He missed 2 games, and he still was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. If he played all 16, he would have been ridiculous. Rodgers throws to him like 180 times a season. Like it's
true.
It's just he's just the guy. True. He's great. He's a great guaranteed at wide receiver. You're getting a top tier wide receiver, unless he gets injured.
Yeah.
But as long as he's healthy, and Rodgers is still going to be there next year, I assume. Then Adams will be just fine.
Yeah. I think for me, more specifically, it is kind of like I said, I don't like drafting wide receivers in the top 5, and you saw Michael Thomas get the same hype, and then he obviously just was his handle on Twitter is at can't guard Mike, and you can kind of guard him now, but
he had 0 catches in the playoff game.
Oh my gosh! But anyway, yeah, I think Adams for me personally is I love him, and we both projected him as the wide receiver 1 this year, and that's what he was, and he got targeted out the wazoo, and I think a lot of it, like this is an early mock draft, so this is where he's gonna go, and a lot of it depends on Rodgers and where his head's at. He might win a Super Bowl this year and walk off.
Yeah.
or he could play another 5 years. They could bring in another wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it could change how Devontae Adams looks in the offense. So we don't know what's going to happen, but it is very high to draft a wide receiver.
It is, yeah.
And so, but this is what's going to happen in your leagues, I think.
Yeah. I think this so far is pretty accurate.
Devontae Adams is going to be a top 5 wide receiver. Now you're putting me in an impossible situation here. I think at this point you're going to have a lot of people starting to draft, and I don't know. Me and Rick just did a previous show where we think he's not going to finish here. Mm-hmm. But I think just based on the information that we have and what is going on in the current NFL, like Alvin Kamara probably has to go 106. Sure. And it's tough because it's hard because I really do think there's going to be some regression this year with Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
And to draft him as a top 5 running back is just it's tough for me personally. But this is where he's going to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it hurts, but I took Kamara.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I definitely wouldn't take him there, but I agree that I think people are going to. This is around the range where Kamara's going to go.
Yeah.
Anywhere from like the 1.5 to the 1.9.
Yeah.
Most likely. This is a tough one for me too because I have a few guys in mind that I'd be willing to take here. Again, I'm not going to take him, but I think Travis Kelce, if he's available here, he's going to go probably very close to this range. I'm not going to do it yet. But just a heads up, it's coming soon.
I saw a tweet that mimicked what you were saying the other day about people being high on him, and they said if you're not drafting Travis Kelce in the top 3 of fantasy drafts, what are you doing? And I'm like, not losing my league. I think I retweeted it and I said not losing my league. I'm like, you guys.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the Travis
he's not
Kelce,
even the wide receiver 1. Right. He's the wide receiver 3. So that's way too much.
It's because people say it's the advantage.
There is no advantage. There physically is no advantage.
I think it's an advantage, but it's not as big as people.
If you're taking Travis Kelce saying that you're getting an advantage, you're losing an advantage at wide receiver and running back. So what you gain in having Travis Kelce, you're losing at other positions. Now,
unless you think
unless you have an insane draft and get everything else you want. Right. But you're coming to me and telling me you're going to have a good running back situation after drafting Travis Kelce 103. Yeah. Good luck with that. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list. There's 2 guys that I'm really debating about, and I love them both. Man, it's tough. I think Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill are both in this conversation. I'm not going to take either guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I do think this guy is going to go high. Whether it deserves to be this high or not, I probably would be willing to take him this high.
What we got, Rick?
It's a little off the board. It's very off the board, actually, but it's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor at the 1.7. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he goes in this range. He's kind of in the Alvin Kamara range. I've seen him go between usually like 1.4 and like 1.10.
That's a little high.
It's a little high, but he did finish as the RB6 last year. And you're taking him as the RB6 again. And for a guy who Marlon Mack is assuming Marlon Mack isn't returning, it's the same situation. Mm-hmm. What Jonathan Taylor did in the second half of the year just can't be ignored. He was phenomenal. He was averaging about 20 points a game.
Yeah.
And you would say, well, he had a very easy schedule. Mm-hmm. Chances are he's going to have an easy schedule again. He's playing Houston twice, Jacksonville twice, Tennessee twice, who doesn't have a great run defense. And
right.
There's no chance all 3 of those teams just get drastically better at defending the run. So Taylor is going to have an easy schedule again next year. It is a little off the board, especially according to Sleeper, but Sleeper hasn't updated.
Yeah.
But it's about the range where I've seen him go, and I think this is around the range where he's going to go in most mock drafts next year and most drafts next year. And I would rather have Taylor than Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill at this point. There is another running back or 2 that I was thinking about, but I'll save that.
So at 1.8, I think Taylor might be a little bit too high, but I don't disagree with Rick. I think there is going to be people who hype him up into that category. I think it all depends on if they want to bring Marlon Mack back.
Yeah, that's gonna. If Marlon Mack comes back, then
if we're making the assumption that Jonathan Taylor is the feature guy there, yes, then we'll move forward with that. But it also depends on how much, because as the season goes along, Taylor started to figure it out early in the season. Like he had some good games fantasy wise, but if you watched him on tape, you were like, he's missing holes. He's not.
Second half of the year, it's like a switch flipped.
Yeah,
with him.
So I think I'm gonna go with a safe pick here, and I'm gonna go with Nick Chubb.
Yep. That was the guy I was debating with that I would have taken next.
So I'm surprised that you didn't take him 1.7.
if it was me, I would have taken him, but I think
Yeah.
the hype for Taylor is going to be greater than Nick Chubb because people know what Nick Chubb is, and he's got Kareem Hunt there and stuff like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Nick Chubb he's a ridiculous running back. We know that.
Yeah.
I see. I would have been more hyped on this pick if he didn't drop 4 passes yesterday, because he actually is a decent pass catching running back. And if he starts to get involved in the passing game a little bit more, you're going to start to see him jump into that top 5 conversation, very similar to what Dalvin Cook was for Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota. But I mean, what was he? He was the RB9 in 12 games.
Something like that. Yeah, I think he. Yeah, RB9 in 12 games. That's
So, and he passed Kareem Hunt, who played all 16.
Yep.
So, like, if you give him, and he was averaging 16 points a game, so if you give him those extra games, he is a top 5 running back, and he's right around Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor totals.
This guy played 1 game. I don't count him. He would have been. And McCaffrey, do you count playing 3 games? Are we still going to count McCaffrey?
But I mean, is that the average total points per game we're going to get out of McCaffrey the rest of our lives?
So yeah, that's fair. Chubb, if you take out McCaffrey, Chubb was the RB5. If you include McCaffrey, Chubb was the RB6 in points per game.
Yeah. Wow. That's
So,
yeah.
he was
Nick
beast.
Chubb speaks for himself, and I love him there. Like if that's where I really do think that there's going to be a conversation for him, because I actually think if you're looking at this like first round so far, Kamara could probably go higher. He could probably pass like Barkley. I actually think you could swap Kamara and Barkley.
Yeah,
totally. And that might happen in a lot of drafts. And then I think Nick Chubb would definitely. I think Chubb could go 6, and he might actually go ahead of Derrick Henry. But I don't know what the hype looks like. But Rick probably hit the nail on the head with Jonathan Taylor 7. It's like that's gonna happen. Like people are gonna get psyched.
I mean, I would be willing to draft him there if. Because I would draft Taylor over Kamara for me personally.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a reasonable spot to take Jonathan Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I would, however, take Chubb over Taylor. For me, the 1-9, I hate to do it, man, but I think it's time. It might be Travis Kelce's zone.
No.
I don't want to do it. This is not what I want to do. But let's be realistic here. The year that he just had,
I don't want to do it.
It's for me. I don't take Zeke here.
Early second round.
Okay, fine.
Let's agree.
Fine. Then I'll
don't
go.
Don't ruin my first round with a red. I think it's a red designation for.
I agree. Hey, listen. I agree
it.
with you. I agree with you. I don't want Travis Kelce back. I'm just telling you realistically. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think here another tier of running backs for me personally drops. I think Zeke. It's weird with Zeke at this point, because I think a lot of people are going to be bullish on him. I'm not sure he goes in the top 9.
Yeah.
Although I think
he's going to be a second round pick.
I do too. So I'm going to go Tyreek Hill here. I think second receiver off the board. He's a very safe pick, but he's Tyreek Hill. He's a wide receiver 2 this year.
Yeah.
He's got Mahomes. You kind of know what you're getting with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would probably take him quite right here, but I do think this is where he's going to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. What was he on the season? A wide receiver?
He was a wide receiver 2, yeah.
Yeah, and he had that 50-point game, so he's insane. I think if you lock up any of these Chiefs players,
exactly,
you're probably gonna have.
You know what you're getting with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I hate to keep just drafting freaking running backs here, but this is where
receivers.
This is where I guess so. This is where things kind of start to drop off. Rick was mentioning Zeke. I really think that there was a stretch of games where I don't even know if Zeke's going to be a Cowboy. And I hate to say that because I do think he's going to be I personally feel like he'll still be a Cowboy when the season starts, but I think they like what they got out of Pollard. They're paying way too much money at the running back position that they could put towards other things. So I don't know what they're going to do with Zeke or if there's any kind of uncertainty surrounding that. But I think what I'm going to do, it's time.
Oh boy, I see it.
We're going to go Antonio Gibson here. And it's I can't even find him. That's how bad this is. And I have to do it again. I'll do his last name. But anyway, I personally, I like Antonio Gibson. I want him to be a second-round pick. I really do. I want him so badly to be a second-round pick. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that people are going to. This is going to be very similar to Sanders. Right now, people are going to be faded back. And then right around June and July, the hype's going to start. And all the fantasy analysts are going to come out like myself. They're going to be like, Antonio Gibson breakout, Antonio Gibson breakout, Antonio Gibson breakout. Miles Sanders was a late second-round pick before the month of August. And then ADP swapped them right into the end of the first round because of people's hype on him. I think Antonio Gibson is going to be a top 8 to 10 drafted running back in the first round. And he might end up being 11 or 12, somewhere in that region, but I think where Rick kind of said with Jonathan Taylor 107, you're going to see Gibson possibly in that conversation at 110. A lot of people are going to be mad at me for that. I might get comments at the end of this.
No, I mean...
It might be like, I listened that far in the episode just for you to take Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I do think that's early for me, but... I
like if I was drafting 10, I'd probably take Gibson.
Yeah, you would. And I know, and I understand your point with like this year's Miles Sanders, where he's just gonna fly upward. So I understand that one. I think this one, there's a lot of different directions I could go in. I'm not gonna do it, but Travis Kelce should be the pick here, to be honest. But yeah, I think Zeke's an option. Travis Kelce's an option. I think if Jacksonville doesn't add a running back, I think James Robinson is a very good option here since he was the RB7 last year. I think David Montgomery, you're even pushing. Although I don't want David Montgomery, but the year that he had. So assuming Jacksonville does not add a running back, I'm going to go James Robinson here. With Trevor,
okay.
With Trevor
I was
Lawrence,
curious to see how early you were going to go Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also basing it off what other people I think are going to do. He's going to be nowhere because he was undrafted. So you're going to have to type in his full name probably. Yeah, I think it's partly 684. It's partly what I think other people are going to do. But if Jacksonville doesn't add a running back, he's got Trevor Lawrence. That offense is going to be better. Even if he gets less carries, which I think is going to we both agree is going to happen. Yeah. He might be just as good, if not better, in the pass catching game. And he's going to be close to a true workhorse, which is kind of rare for running backs, especially once you get to the second round, late first and stuff like that. So I think that's a reasonable spot. It might be a few picks high on him, but some people are going to take him in the first round, man. There's a lot of people high on James Robinson.
Now, I don't know. I really don't know what you're going to end up getting out of this guy in terms of where he lands or if he re-signs. But I'm going to make the assumption right now, early mock draft, he's still a Packer.
Okay.
He re-signs. Aaron Jones, I actually think this is probably Jones, if he re-signs, probably will end up somewhere around 108
higher,
to 110.
He'll be ahead of Robinson.
If he gets drafted, because people aren't going to let him go in the second round. If he leaves, I would say probably mid-second round pick. But because we don't know what's going on, I'll stick him at the end of the first round and call it a day. But we all know what Aaron Jones is, so we're going to try to finish the second round and go from there. But I'm definitely on board with Aaron Jones.
Put Travis Kelce on there. Not that I love it, but
I keep missing the button.
I actually think Travis Kelce maybe has a down year next year. Maybe. I mean, actually, I don't know. I think being 1 or 2 years left of being
spitting hot
insane.
takes.
No, he's got 1 or 2 years left of being really great, but he's getting up there in age, and I think Kittle is creeping on him for overtaking him as the tight end one. But yeah, I mean, Kelsey's probably going to be. Let's be honest here. In some drafts, he might end up being a top 5 pick, which is insane,
I think the hype will go there.
Would you take him in the second round though?
Right now, no. My strategy doesn't. It forbids,
I agree with
it
you.
Forbids it.
Just because my strategy too, of running backs and receivers. But
it's not like I said. It's not if you're in the third round and he's there. It's not a bad pick. Like if you're late second round too, it's not a bad pick either because at that point you might not have the running backs that you want or the guys that you think are going to be good. So. Like last year, guys that I really liked, like Sanders and Drake and I can't remember the other guy's name was, but anyway, those guys were all drafted early second round. So if you were the back end of the second round, you weren't getting any of them, and forced Rick to draft Travis Kelce.
It was a good pick.
Yeah, and it ended up being a good pick there. But it's not, like I said, not a bad pick for you to go out and snag. So anyway, at the 2-2. We're going to go rapid fire. I would probably say you have to go Zeke, and we left him off the board too long. I think that it's more than likely that Zeke, especially going through the offseason, people start to come to their senses on Ezekiel Elliott if he stays with Dallas. I think that he'll end up being like 110, 111, 112, somewhere in that region. But here, I think we'll put him at 2-2.
Yeah, solid. I think that's a solid range for Zeke. I would take him in that range as well. Once again, a lot of options. It's kind of weird only having 2 wide receivers on the board at this point. But I don't think I think, man, it's tough. It's tough. It's debatable here to go with my third wide receiver just because there's only 2 off the board. I think the next guy is probably. Is it crazy for me to say Stephon Diggs?
It might be. I don't think he should be in that conversation, but he probably will be.
It's going to be either Diggs or Hopkins to me. And so you already did Diggs, so whatever.
Yep.
We'll just say Diggs then. And it is a little high, but that I think is where he's going to be a second round pick this year just because of the production he had. And to be honest, I wouldn't take him this high, but I would take Diggs this year because I think that offense is going to stay the same. Their offensive coordinator is staying, which is huge because Buffalo puts a lot of credit to him from like what I've talked to with Buffalo fans and stuff on Twitter. They all love their offensive coordinator. He's going to stay. He's not, as of right now, is not taking a head coaching job. That offense is going to stay the same. It's another year in the system.
Yeah.
Diggs and Josh Allen, that connection is going to be lights out probably next year unless one of them gets injured again. So yeah, I actually do really like Diggs. I do think it might be a few spots early, but you got to get another receiver on the board at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it again too. I'm gonna take Hopkins.
Yep.
I don't love this pick with Hopkins though. I'm gonna be honest. I think Hopkins was really good this year, but first half of the season we were all kind of like shocked, and then second half of the season, I wish I could pull up the numbers on where he was over the course of the last like 8 to 10 weeks of the season. But Hopkins ended up like kind of falling apart at the end a little bit, which kind of pushed him down the board.
Yeah.
He was like wide receiver 1 or 2 for a majority of the season, and then he had like a falling off at the end of the season, and he ended up being like the wide receiver 5 or 6 through 17 weeks. So he's not a bad wide receiver to go with. I think he's still kind of in that conversation of second round pick, maybe early first round. You might see him jump into that 112 conversation, but I think this is kind of where he's going to hover when draft season hits.
Yeah, and at this spot, I think there's there's plenty of options here. I am going to go running back, and there's a couple running backs here in this range that I think guys are going to pick, but I think when it comes down to your draft and we're in August, the guy that's going to get the most hype at this point is DeAndre Swift. I think Eckler
over Monty and Josh Jacobs?
Yes. Josh Jacobs actually might be suspended to start the season.
What the frick happened to him? What did I miss?
Drunk driving.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. So you're going to go Swift?
Yeah, so I think Swift is at this point, like, I know we're looking at the same rankings here. Like, I think Montgomery is definitely someone who should be higher. I think, but the year that Mixon and Sanders had, I think Swift is going to have more hype in the offseason than those guys. I think Eckler is the only guy that I think is debatable.
Yeah.
And maybe Montgomery as well. But I think Swift, out of all those guys, is going to have the most hype going into next year after what he did in his rookie year and what he did when he became the starter. Now, granted,
depends the situation with head coach and what happens
that
there.
is huge concern for me because every year we're like, it's Lions players. You don't want Lions players, blah, blah, blah. This year they were actually decent, and we told you that going into the year, and there was a lot of people hating on us being like, oh, you want a Lions player. Like, well, T.J. Hawkinson was good. DeAndre Swift was good. Matt Stafford was streamable when he was playing.
Wasn't a hip injury.
Yeah, so like they had decent offense. This year, man, there's a chance Stafford's gone. They hired Dan Campbell to be their head coach. Do you remember who Dan Campbell is?
Yeah.
The guy who used to scream in the locker. He was the interim head coach for the Dolphins like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was like screaming he's like, it's about the passion, man. Like that's how he's like a crazy like rah-rah guy, but he has like no strategy. And he was the tight ends coach. He goes from the tight ends coach to a head coach. It just doesn't make sense for me. I thought it was not a good hiring. And if Stafford's gone, like the situation's gonna be tough, man. I love Swift, but man, I don't know about next year. But I do think this is the range that he's gonna be going.
I think just because Rick didn't do it, I'm going to take my guy, David Montgomery.
Fair.
If I could ever find him. I think he's probably at this point. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize how
The hype for him is going to get crazy.
it is going to kind of. I think it's going to move.
He might move ahead of Swift.
It depends on. He's going to move ahead of Swift. I really do think that, and I don't think he'll get looking at where you took Robinson. I actually think Robinson will probably end up right where James Robinson, where David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift are, and I think Monty might swap out and be the 111.
I think it's possible.
Region, but it depends because a lot of people look at David Montgomery. He's one of those players that has quietly has really good seasons, and people are like, "Wow!" I was shocked when I looked and saw that he was a top 5 running back, and I was like, "How did that even happen?" Through 17 weeks.
There's a good chance they upgrade at quarterback this year too.
Yeah, so it's like if they upgrade at quarterback and they do a couple of things offensively.
Now Matt Nagy's still the coach.
Now let's be fair about this. Tariq Cohen was not a part of this team for all of the season because of his ACL injury.
Most of the season.
Does Cohen come in and take the pass catching? Because that's what threw David Montgomery into the top 5. Does Cohen come in and take that opportunity pass catching wise away from David Montgomery? Do they get him more rushing work because they like to go with multiple running backs? David Montgomery is literally the only guy on the roster in the backfield besides Ryan Nail and Cordero Patterson.
Right. But if Tariq Cohen comes back, I do think that is a legitimate concern.
He's coming back. He just signed a contract.
That's right. Yeah.
He's back.
So that is a legitimate concern with Montgomery, but I think it could even out if they get a better quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And that offense improves. So, to be honest, I think Montgomery might even get too overhyped this year because they're going to see that finish and go nuts about him. And I like Montgomery. You love Montgomery. We both like him,
guy.
but do you think he's going to be a top 5 running back again next year?
No.
Right, especially if they take away some passing.
What is he?
Work.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th off
so
the
that
board.
that spot's fine, absolutely fine. But I do think there's a chance, like you were saying, the hype moves him to where I picked Robinson, which is late first round, which I think is a little bit too early for him. But solid place there. I think at this spot here, I'm going running back again. I'm going to take Austin Eckler.
Forgot about Austin Eckler.
Yeah, he was fantastic in the beginning of the year, and then he came back and started off really hot, and then all of a sudden Anthony Lynn just stopped using him. Or not stopped using him, but used him less. They used Kalen Ballage. He was getting 10 touches a game. It was making no sense. Everyone who owned Austin Eckler was extremely frustrated, and understandably so with him gone. There's just too many question marks, I think, for Austin Eckler to be higher than this spot. Are they going to sign? Are they going to add another running back? Is the head coach going to use Eckler the same way as Anthony Lynn?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of questions, but I think he's a very safe pick here because even if they do kind of split next year with whoever the running back is, the amount of passing game he gets with Justin Herbert is going to propel him to be a very solid RB2. So I think Eckler's a solid pick here.
I'm going to have to take, and I hate doing this for the running back position, but you have to take Josh Jacobs. I mean,
yeah,
he's such a gross player. He really is. And he's good, but he's not top 10, top 5 elite good. He was RB8 this year through 15 games. He probably would have finished. He's averaging 14 points a game. He probably would have finished in the top 6 or 7 had he had that. So I think he might even go higher than where he is right now. But I think Jacob should definitely be ahead of Austin Eckler right now.
Yeah.
100%.
So here the guy I would take is don't pick him because this isn't the guy that I want you to take. But if I was on the clock, I would probably take Joe Mixon here. But I think actually I don't know. I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins though because again, I think it's another hype player. To me, I think J.K. Dobbins is. You're not a fan of that one.
Not yet. I mean, you have guys like I like J.K. Dobbins. He's the RB21 through 15 weeks, and he didn't even really play for most of the season as a starter.
I think,
but you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have Miles Sanders.
There's no way.
Board.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones, who had a decent season this year.
He's not going to get drafted ahead of Dobbins. Sanders might.
There's only so many young running backs that can slide into the spot, and then you're not even including guys like Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson,
so
DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. This is going to be this is what I was talking about when I said Cam Akers is not going to get drafted in the first.
This is not what I want to do, but from what I have seen,
all right,
I think Sanders is debatable here. But I think J.K. Dobbins
I'm not judging your picks,
with Mark Ingram gone. I think the hype for J.K. Dobbins.
He already is. He didn't play for the second.
The hype for J.K. Dobbins is going to be crazy, and it's going to have him slide into the second round.
Okay.
The end of the second round. So go take one of those receivers you're talking about. Because
I'll take both. I think you have to go because you also still have. He didn't play well. There's concerns surrounding the quarterback, but you still have Michael Thomas on the board.
Yeah, I don't.
So it's like, where do you take Michael Thomas?
If Taysom Hill is the quarterback, Michael Thomas isn't even the discussion for me in the second.
Okay, so I'm gonna take Calvin Ridley here, not because of his placement, but if Calvin Ridley is sitting at 210, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah, I think the problem is if they draft a quarterback at 4, like a lot of people think. Do you still feel? Do you actually maybe even better? But do you feel the same or better or worse?
They're not really changing their offensive play style this year. They changed they still did they get a head coach yet?
I don't think they have a head coach.
Okay, because their offensive coordinator is a very, very pass friendly guy. So
True.
Regardless of that situation, Calvin Ridley, and I don't think Julio Jones has much longer.
True, but does that hurt or help Ridley?
I think it helps Ridley.
Okay. Yeah,
more target share.
I think this is.
He's already getting 12 targets a game.
Yeah,
get rid of Julio.
If it were me, I probably would have taken Ridley ahead. I would have taken him ahead of Dobbins, ahead of Jacobs, and probably ahead of Swift too. To be honest, in that range. So that's a solid pick. This one, I think it's tough between.
Yeah.
I'm debating between Mixon, Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson here. I think. Probably what people are going to do is take Metcalf, even though I think he'd be third on my list.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say Metcalf. Again, it's not who I would take here.
That's gross.
It is gross. But I think if you're just looking at pure hype, right? I think Metcalf
the other problem
slightly outweighs.
You still have Julio out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got other guys.
Yeah.
Julio, Michael Thomas. I would be surprised if those guys end up as third-round picks. But what is my pick, right?
I don't think if Taysom Hill is the quarterback, I don't think Michael Thomas goes in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think we needed like more of a balance because usually the second round comes in at a lot less running backs. Like I really do think Dobbins will probably end up being like 3-2 to 211, somewhere around there. I don't think that spot right there is a little bit high for me. But anyway. Should I take a running back or should I take Justin Jefferson? Or my guy?
Who's your guy?
AJ Brown.
Oh, I think I said Miles Sanders. There's still some good players here.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson. I think are all the next 4 picks.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I would probably take. I don't want Sanders. Who's the other running back?
Mixon. I think it's got to be Mixon or Sanders at this point.
Frick it. I'm going with a wide receiver. I'm gonna take my guy.
That's solid.
I'll take AJ Brown.
AJ Brown and Metcalf going back.
I actually think if we're being realistic, because this is going to be our last pick. If we're being realistic, I would probably take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And I'll switch it. I can switch it, right?
Yeah.
I'll go Justin Jefferson instead, if I could actually switch it.
Can I rapid fire just my opinion of what I think the third round would probably be?
Yeah, that's fine. But anyway, real quickly on Justin Jefferson.
Sure.
He's a wide receiver 6. I do think he might even end up higher. Like he might pass Metcalf, and he might even pass Ridley and jump into that like middle of the second round range if people don't go crazy on the running back position in the second round. I really do think that 5 wide receivers in the second round is probably a lot. But anyway, if that doesn't happen, Justin Jefferson will go a little bit higher. I do have concerns that I'll talk about throughout the offseason with Justin Jefferson. He's ridiculous. He's good. But how can that offense continue to carry 2 wide receiver 1s when they don't throw the football a lot?
Yeah.
I think Justin Jefferson would be the guy outside of Thielen. Because Thielen, is 29, 30?
Yeah, he's
at this point. So I think it would be Justin Jefferson who would be the wide receiver 1, but like it is concerning. So what is your third round really quickly?
So I agree with you on that. I think Sanders and Mixon are the next 2 guys, whatever order you want. I think A.J. Brown is probably the next receiver off the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think then you get in the discussion. I think Julio probably goes at that point somewhere in the middle of the third round, early mid third round.
Julio and Thomas.
I think probably Thomas, but for me personally, I'm not taking him in the first 3 rounds.
Okay,
that's just me. Assuming Taysom Hill is the quarterback.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think Michael Thomas probably in there too. And then I think you go back to running backs here. I think, to be honest, not what I would do. I think Cam Akers does go ahead of Clyde.
Yeah, not what I would do either, but
we'll
see. I don't see postseason hype happens and then like the Super Bowl happens and everyone forgets about Cam Akers' little stretch of games.
If Clyde has an insane like AFC Championship game against the Bills because he's coming back this week, because people have kind of forgotten about him. He's missed like 4 weeks. If he comes back and gets like 200 yards, people are gonna be like, Clyde RB1. So like, it's true. But as of like today, right now, I do think Cam Akers is more hype. Would go ahead of Clyde. Then I think Clyde, like you might even say back to back. And then I think maybe Kittle goes in that range as well. You get Mahomes. You get Josh Allen,
I was gonna say
Keenan
that.
Allen.
I was gonna say that too. I don't think that there's anybody like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. Like I get a lot of people disagree on Lamar Jackson, but I still think people like him. But move those guys out of the conversation. You have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and some of the top quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't think Josh Allen being the QB1 is going to be taken ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes would probably fall into that 210, 212 range, even in redraft leagues, because that's usually what happens.
Yeah, Mahomes would be a third round pick.
Not our strategy.
Sneaky, I think Kittle will probably be the second round, the usual third round tight end, second tight end off the board. I think sneaky Kyler Murray could fly up in the late third, early fourth.
Yeah,
he might be the second guy off the board.
Do you see what I'm saying though? When you do this, when you sit down and you break this out, and you put all these guys on a board, do you see why I think Cam Akers could be a 4th round pick?
Yeah. I think people are stupid though, and he could very well be in this range.
Yes, I agree with that. But like, I still like you said that there's so many guys that you could still talk about. Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, Clyde. I think will go high. I think people still like Chris Carson. Kenyon Drake had a decent year. You might still see him come off the board. I don't know where. But last year, I remember going through the first couple rounds and I was like, it was like a barren wasteland in the 3rd round with a bunch of old men running backs. Like named Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon and stuff like that. And those guys are going to be pushed into the 4th round. I think we're going to have we're going to have an insurgence of youth. You're not even talking about, I forgot to say his name or how to say his name, but the 3 big running backs coming out this year. I think only one of them will get drafted in the top 4 rounds. But
2 of them, yes, I agree. Only one of them will. But I think to me, and what I've seen is there's 2 top running backs. It's Travis Etienne out of Clemson and Najee Harris out of Alabama, who is the consensus top guy like Taylor was last year.
Right.
He's not rated as high as Taylor, but a lot of people love Najee Harris. I hope I'm saying his first name right.
Yeah.
The most. Like I was going to say, if he goes to, let's say Najee Harris goes to Miami, everything stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you put him in this? Like he's going to probably go in this range too. Right, the 3rd round, not the 2nd round, the beginning of like the mid.
I think it might end up being. You remember Clyde was before. He was the RB1. Right? Yeah, middle somewhere around there. Yeah, that's probably where he would end up. But there's so many guys that could push back, and I think that 3rd round too. Like a lot of years, we've had 3rd round running backs break out and have really good seasons. And this year, that just didn't happen because there was a lot of people looking for running backs.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, most of the 3rd round running backs were elderly running backs that don't really have much left in the tank.
As gross as this sounds, I almost put it in our show the other day about the hot takes because it was like something that came in my head, but I was no, it's too gross. Whoever the Jets draft at running back or whoever they add is probably going to be good next year. Their new coach, Robert Solom, is bringing their offense coordinator, I believe, with him as well to be the offense coordinator of the Jets. And the 49ers have a very run-friendly running system. If they draft one of those guys, a Travis Etienne, to go with like a Justin Fields maybe, or even if they draft an offensive lineman number 2 and they leave Sam Darnold there, that running back might be decent. And he might have a good year as well. So you're looking at a lot of running backs in that range. But I will say after Mixon, Sanders, those 2 rookie running backs, assuming they land in good spots, it's kind of a wasteland. Ronald Jones too. I think you can throw Ronald Jones in there. But then you're looking at guys like Melvin Gordon again, Kareem Hunt, Chris Carson, who I think is okay. Mostert might not be bad.
Yeah.
But like Devin Singletary again, like Damian Harris, like you're getting in that range.
Cam Akers definitely could be, because I think too, third round is where you're going to start seeing, like, you might see a massive run in the second round on running backs like you did in the first, like similar to this year, and then go into the second round and have guys like Metcalf and Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown and people like that in the third round getting taken. Like, you're going to see probably a plurality.
Ooh, big word.
Plurality, trying to get that out of my mouth. Of wide receivers taken in the third and maybe beginning of the fourth round, which would push Cam Akers into that fourth, fifth round. Yeah. So, like, for me, I think, yes, Rick's right. People are going to get stupid and probably draft Cam Akers in the top 15 of running backs. But I think there's a lot of guys available that you have to think about that are going to be taken ahead of Cam Akers. It just depends on the rookie guys coming back from this year. You have Clyde, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have DeAndre Swift, you have J.K. Dobbins, you have James Robinson, right? Antonio Gibson. So there's a lot of guys that were rookies this year going into their second years who were actually in very good situations that could break out next year. And you have to kind of take, an itemized list of those players and figure out which guys you want, which guys you don't. You still have guys like Josh Jacobs who could be really, really good. Kind of reminding me of Joe Mixon a little bit. Josh Jacobs, back into that RB1 status, and everyone's like, yeah, this guy can be a top 10, a top 5 guy. And he just hangs right on the outside.
I don't love Jacobs.
Yeah, he's not great. But anyway, you get.
I mean, I would take, especially in like in the third round.
Yeah,
I would take him. I think it's very early, but from what I'm seeing here, is again, I'm gonna want to take running backs early. Because there's a lot of solid running backs in those first 3 rounds, and then it looks like it's going to drop off big time in the 4th, 5th.
There's so many good wide receivers too,
and there's exactly. We have an all offseason to talk about.
We have an entire offseason to talk about it, but that'll do it for this episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It has been an interesting one. This is fun.
Yeah,
it was exciting, exhilarating. Hopefully, it gives you an intro into the next couple months. Into draft season. Hopefully get some ADP soon. So we'll talk to you on Tuesday, my friends.
Take it easy.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.